Calvin, what happened Tuesday?
Oh, which one? Are you talking about the Unity thing or?
Why didn't we get a video out Tuesday?
Oh, Tuesday. Oh boy, we
Tell,
just
tell our
didn't.
11 new, our 10 new
We
subscribers. One is me for
yeah.
sure.
No, we were all over the place, and we definitely want our episodes to be a bit more quality and not too
I
rambly.
fucked up. I fucked up.
Let me
I
be
fucked up. I
correct.
was drinking the night before, and the next morning I was a little salty and bitter, and maybe had some comments that needed to, I don't know, some stories that didn't need to see the air.
Yeah, I like giving hot takes, but sometimes we can get a little bit too hot, and we should be careful. Hey, we're
Yeah,
doing this to get better. We want that's what everyone should be doing. Just do stuff so you get better at least, and we're
absolutely.
trying to get better.
Thank you everybody who did subscribe. Oh my God, we ran $100 worth of ads. We got 2,000 impressions, which was really cool to see. We could actually, I could probably whip up that data like real quick, just to actually,
Yeah,
because I did pause them all. Here, I'll
I didn't know anything about these sorts of typical numbers. I only know the game stuff.
games. So let's see. None of our campaigns are running right now because I paused it over the thing, but almost 200,000 impressions, 3,000 views. Average click per view was, or cost per view, my apologies, was 3 cents. Great. Kind of great. Like, I guess when you have a really open funnel and you're just saying, hey, like, any time of day, like, whenever, I'm just buying the cheapest ad space, but that's still pretty sweet. Especially when, like, in mobile, they tell you about, the addening and all of this other stuff. And, like, oh my god, CPM rates are going to go way through the roof. It's like, yeah. But I guess we're buying the worst ad traffic, so. But a 2% rate is fine, but
If you guys are watching now, you guys are bottom of the barrel.
yeah. This is how you got here, motherfuckers. Fucking, you got marketed. um, Loving this performance. Oh, this is my spend performance, but yeah, like some of these things seem to do. Interestingly enough, we were doing Australia, Ireland, New Zealand, UK, and the United States. Love to see which country you're from. And then I was using then some of the videos that obviously we have right now. We should be building a we should build an actual video and do that one instead. You know what I mean? Because I was picking points in the hour-long video and just saying maybe they'll watch it and pick it up from here and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but you don't really get a whole lot of stuff. You just they just kind of tell you. Now, interestingly enough, this doesn't um, this doesn't seem to reflect the actual video views in YouTube
Right, it's
in an
more than
interesting
1K,
way.
yeah.
Uh, so I did
This show is
think
made possible by patrons at Patreon.
that was kind of interesting because I got a YouTube studio. Probably just been doxing myself for like the last 10 episodes, but whatever, dude. I don't give a fuck anymore. Yeah, I mean, like, look, so like one of these videos is 675, or is that rankings? Let's look at the analytics.
No, I think that was views.
Yeah, 675 views. So there's obviously some view difference between the actual video views and the click-through views, or the impression views, or it's, or there's only, I think you have to be watching it for a certain amount of seconds. So somehow eyeballs on is like different than, if that's 10. Is that the one that I was just looking at? Yeah, it is, right? 675. And they tell me we got 1K views.
Right, right.
So I'm not sure where the difference is there, but obviously this is the thing. We got 7 subscribers off that one video.
Our best yet.
Yeah, hell yeah. But we have a few things to try and get through today. Want to go through the news first?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Unity buys Iron Source, ad network company, um, but then also then starts fucking calling people idiots. uh,
Was
game
that in
dev.
response to it?
No, no, like somebody's just hot
Oh, okay.
taking in Eurogamer right now, for sure. But Unity boss, a former EA exec. Well, there's your fucking there's your reasoning right there. he's
Wow.
he's squeezing fucking blood from a or blood from a stone. Like he'll try his hardest for sure. I mean, but um, I mean, I generally feel the same way about this, but I've definitely run into, you know, I think this sentiment has completely changed. Like, I think like even 3 years ago, people would be like, no, brr," and I think that there's still a holdout in the greater gamer community that is like, microtransactions, this is fucking,
Yeah.
what is this? Like, and I mean, I don't know, like, what do you even say to that these days? You know what I mean?
So yeah, the people definitely the loudest people. They're gamers. I don't know if I've seen game devs that are that loud. And here's the thing with
Because
game.
they need to get paid.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, or especially if they're really young and like don't if they're a young gamer, like, and they don't even have a concept of like what bills mean towards how many hours of work, like they did, but like a dad of four, like I don't know how much they're gonna whine about it, but yeah, if you're a game dev, because you do still see game devs that are against monetization. Uh, just anecdotally, I don't know, you don't see them last very long. It's kind of like natural selection.
Yeah, like here's the reality. It doesn't mean that every game needs to be free to play, microtransaction, multiplayer, blah
Right.
blah blah. Right? Like, absolutely does not mean that. But what it does mean is that if you do want to have long tail success within this industry, and successes can be defined in two different ways, right? One can be like, visual success, like my game was played and did well, right? Like that's like what we all really want. It's like that people just to
Right.
play it and enjoy it. But in the end, like if I want to be able to support myself, support a business, I need to be able to leverage whatever this is and is happening here into something else that like moves me in a trajectory.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like you become faceless to the product itself, and it's almost like you didn't even do it, right? Like it'll
Yeah.
pop in of the zeitgeist and pop back out, and you know, yes, you can try to take that, leverage it, and say I did this. And maybe that gives you talks, and maybe then you spin that into your next game, and that's the one that you actually go and sell, and now you have an audience, and you know it's going to sell, so you price it appropriately, and you don't do free to play or whatever because you want to build a linear experience and or have it there for people, but at the same time it's just like all of those things are such a risk these days. It is crazy at how much like it has changed. Remember when you wouldn't buy an app on the App Store for 2.99 or 1.99,
Yep.
99 cents? What?
Yep.
Pay for it? Are you serious? Dude, I've got my flashlight app. Have you seen this thing? I'm drinking beer out of the other app, okay? I didn't pay for those. Why would I pay for this whole other
Yeah.
7 years of that? I don't know. We're fucking dumb, dude.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, it's like if you want to, a lot of people are really confident they can go that route too. They're like, oh, I've seen so and so unicorn, and they'll cite like two games or maybe three that went down that route. It's like, boy, you're either really confident or you're like ignoring data because the games that pull that off are, very very small amount compared to standard trying to make money so that you can make more games.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think actually, if you remember this game, if you know this game, called Radar Jam, I think is a great example of a case study of a game that has done well for itself. Oh, sorry. Uh, technical difficulties in chat. In chat. I think this is a good example of a game that has captured some people and captured an audience. One dev was a game jam game that went out on itch. People seemed to like it. He continued to develop it, and then over time has now moved, I think, from a $4.99 price point to a $9.99 price point, and basically put out a full game to themselves. And that was like riding the success, or the, what do you call it, riding the wave of your marketing or whatever, right?
Okay.
The
Okay.
long and short is the game was doing well on itch, right? They put the game out, and it was like, oh hey, this is kind of fun, like keep this up, like let's see what happens here. Then they took that, started developing it more, and then went on the indie tours, started showing it at conventions. Then from the
Yeah.
conventions, then they got a bunch of press and publicity that way, and then a proper Steam release basically kind of sealed that fate of like, hey, like you just made your first $100,000 off of a game jam game that you made, over the course of probably like, I don't know, maybe 8 months, maybe a year, maybe a year and a half. You know what I mean? And that becomes a base then for that person. Some of, like, I always feel like, can you make your indie game your company's brand, right? Like, can you? It's a hard thing to say. What I mean by that is like your game is your brand, just like The Witcher is to Braid is
Okay.
to, to the bald guy. Don't remember his name.
Is this a good or a bad thing?
No, I think it's a good thing. I think
Okay.
this is. You remember what I was saying there about like faceless games? It's like it's one thing to just like release a game and not try to push it and not talk about it. Like if you actually believe in this thing, you should try to show it to people, right? Like putting it out into the market and then seeing it do well, but then not actually capitalizing on that audience while it's there. To not just It's not just about like put yourself in the limelight and put yourself here, but like you need to highlight, if people are liking your work, like highlight yourself so that you can use that trajectory to say, hey everybody, like how should we keep, like what should we do here? You know what I mean? I'm going to be working
Absolutely.
on this other thing. Hey, go check out my other stuff. You got to capture those people. Like, or at least attempt to interact with them. Those are your fans. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You
No.
should
No.
go try to
Definitely.
talk to your fans or something.
No. The first game I put out on Congregate, I thought, because the average amount of plays you get on Congregate at the time was 5,000. I was like, okay, well if I get 5,000, I'll be happy. But I definitely had way more than 5,000. I wasn't planning to do any kind of community stuff, but we had to quickly throw up a Discord and grab people because for that very reason, it's like, oh my god, there's a lot of people playing my games. I need to bring them in and start to talk to them.
Yeah, do something, right? I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know
Yeah.
what's the optimal thing to do there.
Exactly.
And honestly, it's like that's you're literally trying to catch lightning in a bottle now, right? Like
Right.
now
Right.
you're walking around with your fucking just
Yeah.
trying desperately to
Yeah.
like get any of them in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an absolute incredible time. Fair play to any of the devs that actually get to there and get to have their feeling. That's a major accomplishment to even get to there. But let's see, we didn't really talk about the Iron Source stuff, but the biggest thing for me theirs is like, if it, it's just another step in Unity's belt of mobile domination. Unreal has already said like we're gonna focus on movies, hyper realism and stuff, and Unity, even though they've bought ILM, I don't see them still being able to, like they're gonna be under a generation now. It'll be a couple of years now before you'll really start seeing that tech even move into that industry again. Maybe it's more accessible for people, but that does concern me with how entrenched Unreal will become over there, because first technology will be the place where they start building tooling against, and to convince somebody to go to a different direction later on is gonna be like a big problem, but that's
Okay.
okay. I don't think Unity is gonna go away anytime soon, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'll quickly talk on the Iron Source as well. So it's been okay. It was very simple news. To a game dev or somebody that's been in industry is kind of simple news. Basically, in the past you didn't really use Unity analytics and you didn't really use Unity ads because they didn't perform as well as third-party things, and now they're basically buying the competitors that did well. I was like, okay, well that makes sense. That's typical Unity. But I think a lot of people who are unfamiliar with this, they were like Googling Iron Source, and they're like, oh yeah, uh, in 2015 they were doing adware and malware and stuff, and then these
They really.
yeah, and I think they did when they did PC stuff, but it's like I don't know, like a lot of this is irrelevant now in terms of what they're doing. I mean, if you have a moral opposition to it, then sure, but basically I'm just saying like people in the industry they just use Iron Source. It's a very strong like ad thing to integrate with.
Yeah.
So
Ads
I was
are
kind of
malware,
confused.
for sure.
Yeah,
They definitely are.
I was definitely a little confused with the backlash. I think people are a little misinformed, but it's the internet, it's Reddit, it's whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Look, if you don't think that they're gonna, keep expanding and buying into that area, you know what I mean? Why wouldn't Unity want to become their own ad network by themselves? You know what I mean? If
Yeah,
they're already integrated into all the games, because here's the reality, right? Do you want to know how AppLovin has done so well over the last number of years? Right, like this
shoot.
company didn't exist. What, like 7 years ago, it did not exist. It's because once in their like APK, right, like in their packages, like they're storing a lot of that analytics then as well too, right? Like, so they're getting inherent data from your app being able to like link that together with all of their other ecosystem,
Yep.
and then they're able to target just so much better and capture so much better, and it's very interesting in that sense because I mean that made them so efficient to buy other companies now in such a short period of
Yep.
time. So,
And make their own studios and all that stuff. So
what do you think about this then? The PC market experiences sharpest decline in 9 years.
oh
Shipments were
man.
down 12.6% year over year Q2.
So to me that was interesting. So we all see the news that mobile dev is growing and growing, or mobile money. It's not. I guess it's less often I see the opposite because if people are moving to mobile, then the other platforms are suffering. So I guess it was interesting to see this headline that we've honestly seen for decades, which is the death of PC gaming. And then people are like, "No, it's okay. PC's doing fine." But
PC is doing fine.
yeah, but I guess with the growth of mobile, these other platforms are inevitably gonna go down. So starting to see it in like my friend circles and everything.
Yeah, it is interesting because like I don't see interesting last point here, right? It says it added that Tencent and NetEase were the largest PC game publishers with a combined 2021 revenue up 10% to 9.6 billion.
Well, that's not fair. That's Tencent. I assume they're talking about League and all the other games that are under 10 cent.
Yeah, but it's just an interesting thing because it's like I look at this article, right, and they're talking about HP and Lenovo. So they're obviously looking at the big shippers. But I don't know many people who are buying straight computers, I guess. I don't know, but like I'm
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? Yeah, I mean,
It,
I've been building computers since I was a fucking like 14, right? So like I'm not I don't know what the other side, like I just going and buying a pre-built computer, going up. But like, are they looking at? I don't see anything that says iBuyPower here, or no,
uh,
iBuyPower don't exist anymore, do they? Wait, that was a huge
yeah, yeah,
scandal. I forgot about that. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Like one
yeah,
of
yeah.
those. There's some of them out there. You know what I mean. Some gaming
Oh,
platform that are doing well.
I've no, I've totally fell for my own criticism of people that don't really read too far past the headline. I thought this was talking about PC gaming. I didn't realize it was talking about like PC hardware and such. But yeah, yeah,
No,
it's a
that's what I
little.
was wondering. But like, I'll tell you, I wouldn't doubt that PC gaming sales have been on a decline. Have you seen how many
Yeah,
free games that are coming out on certain
yeah.
platforms that are buying for your time right now?
Yeah.
Amazon Prime's like, look, I don't care how anybody feels about these things. I'll take a free game, right? I'm watching for the free stuff for sure. You better be no. I am on Epic Game Store every time that bloody thing refreshes, and I don't even care if I like the game. I'm getting it. I'm gonna
You've been
get
playing
it.
Fall Guy?
Huh?
You've been
No, I
playing Fall
haven't, but
Guy?
I should. I want to. We still have to play some video games.
Yeah,
Damn it.
yeah, I know.
No, I would love to, but I have gotten some great games off of those things. I got Alien Isolation, which I've been dying to play, and
Yeah.
I haven't given it a chance because I'm too afraid. I've played through, yeah, like I got Celeste for free. I tripped acid on my birthday 2 years ago and fucking played it for 8 hours. And I had one of the greatest experiences of my entire life. It was phenomenal. Um, and I got that from a free game. So like I do wonder who's buying games, but I know it's still me because I've spent probably $350 on racing games in the last like month and a half. Um, but yeah, all these games now are coming out on mobile. Apex is there, like all this cross platform stuff, is obviously really really helping all of these, helping mobile really, right?
Yeah.
All right, do we want to get into our big topic for today?
Sure. Yeah, we took up half the time already, but it's all good. We'll
This show is made
It's okay.
possible
We
by
got
the
another
patrons.
half the day to go. All right. Do you want to take this point by point, or do you want to go and, or should we? How should we do this? How do you
We're
want to do
talking
this?
about the
The
game
video.
elegance topic or
Yeah.
something else.
Game
Well, I
elegance.
well, I mostly wanted to show the video to define elegance, not necessarily the topic I wanted to talk about actually. So I
Oh,
could
okay.
quickly, yeah, I can just quickly sum up the
It's
idea.
at
So
patreon.com.
yeah, so I've been thinking a lot about game elegance and complexity lately, and I'll first define this through it's a video talking about elegance, but it's kind of a definition I've seen elsewhere as well. So elegance in games or an elegant game is basically, if you want to boil it down to a mechanical thing, is how many rules you have versus how much depth your game has. So if you have a ton of depth but only like a few rules, like 2 rules, then that's considered very elegant. And this doesn't mean minimalist or simplistic. That's a game with low rules but also low depth. So we're talking about games, and this is the primary example of elegance, which is Go versus chess. So Go only has a couple rules. It's like, hey, just find territory, and that's an infinitely complex or infinitely in-depth game. Whereas chess has more rules, and you have like 9 different units, and they all do different things or whatever. So the result of elegance and why almost every designer will talk about it and fight for it is that elegance results in easy to learn and hard to master. And there's definitely a lot of truth about that. In fact, I think it's completely true. So here's what I've been thinking lately. I think elegance is overrated. And I think especially a lot of um devs that aren't in the industry will really push it, I guess, because it's more theory crafting. They're like, hey, we gotta do this sort of thing. But as I'm playing games and comparing elegant games versus complex games, what I'm seeing is something that's tied to the classic, how skillful should your game be? Because when I play a more elegant game, I'm going to use fighting games. Guilty Gear Strive has less rules, and here's what I'm getting at: when a player hits a wall and they have no idea what to do, I think they get stuck more often in an elegant game because it's up to them to figure out what they need to do next. But in a complex game, let's say Tekken, which has a billion moves, when you get stuck and you lost, you're like, okay, I need to figure out what that move did. I need to look up what this move did. So knowledge becomes a scaffolding, a ladder for you to climb and keep progressing. And so yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. And we kind of talked about this too with Doom. Doom 2 2016 is a more quote elegant game, whereas Eternal is a more complex game. It has a lot more to it, and it's a lot more rules.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I when we talked about this before getting in, I had never really heard people say the word elegance in mean this in game design. I really always called this, either complexity adaptation or just onboarding, right? Like just general first, the user's experience through the mechanics, and it's you can be complex and you can be deep and you can have these things, but it's about how you train the player into those things, is and how many things you have active at one time is really like the place. Like there's an elastic band of the player of how much they can take,
Right.
and sometimes those things are just too much. We can have loads of mechanics in the game, but if I can give you a subset of those in a moment and allow you to churn on those and then take those things as the puzzle, then I can obviously stretch that out. But as you were saying before, it's like just like with Tekken and with MMO, or sorry, not with like MMOs, but with League of Legends
Yeah, exactly.
or these games that are like, in this case, the video is specifically calling out like League of Legends, Hearthstone, and stuff for this idea of breadth, right? Like, they have a lot of complexity of characters and rules, and how you mix and match those things matter, and those build into your skill. But in reality, there's like there's a point value behind all of that. There's the best deck that you can use, and then there's the best combo for your deck,
Yeah, very
and
true.
you kind of just need to know that like this warlock deck, 98% of the time beats this hunter deck, so then you always just pick these things, right? The inherent complexity is actually like almost a solved problem, and that becomes an issue,
Yes.
when you have locked in hard coded rules, because like what do? Do you completely change all of your rules? Do you rebalance your entire game? Do you No, you do what everybody else does, and hey, here's the metas, and then you look at what's doing well, and then you build something else that beats that, and then that becomes the established meta, and move some stuff around, and then something else comes in and says, actually, that puzzle piece from over here actually now beats this thing, and that's a weird thing too, because like I think that's where innovation comes in, when you can change up those moments within the gameplay, but you have a subset of players that are really doing that, but you have a lot of players who are trying to do that. And how does that ruin then the experience for everybody else as well? Because when people like to experiment, experiments can go wrong. And if you're in a multiplayer game, then you know experiments can leave negative impacts.
I think you're definitely right. I mean, the core of this and why you even want hard to master in the first place is solvability. Solvability sucks. When a game is solvable, that's when that's when people start losing interest. They've mastered the game. They know exactly what to do, and they kind of leave. Yeah. So what you said about like big tech trees or big skill trees, and them eventually finding the meta, you're definitely right that breadth can slow it down. But people will get there eventually. Do you think like an elegant game is like what would you say is the best way to make a game hard to master, or in other words, less solvable or less easily solvable?
Less.
Or just think of an example of a game.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, trying to actually think, because I feel like I've got something on the tip of my cranium somewhere,
Go for
but trying to put together a good point about it, because no, because here's the thing, right? So I've written the I've written our pitch slides for Swing Striker. Uh, uh, I'll bring it up if I can find it like really easily, but Um, we we in that slide have, easy to learn, hard to master. It's
Yeah.
just it's a very clear marketing term for us. You know what I mean? That's why we have it in there. But it is also rings true within the gameplay. The character shoots its grappling hook, and that grappling hook links onto a section, and then we use physics and the player's, thumbstick to basically move them, right? In that case, mechanical complexity is really low, right? So the game is elegant,
Yep.
but it's about how you move your character and like figuring out how to best utilize its weight so that
Yeah.
you know which way to stop and everything. But that's a lot of people don't pick that up.
Yes, this is exactly what I'm getting at. This is literally exactly what I'm getting at. Easy to learn. I'm not arguing against that at all. Every game should not hit you with the four 4x game level of like text boxes and everything. But what you described, the game is elegant from what it sounds like. It's not like you have 80 characters with all different moves and you have to remember
We
how each of
will,
them does.
and it will be free to play, and we will have skins, power ups, abilities. Get my
Yeah.
battle pass, please. I want to quit my job and just do one job. Thank you. Please buy it
Yeah.
when it comes out soon. Swing Striker.
Yeah, and that's kind of let's say Smash Brothers. That's kind of the route that Smash goes. It's elegant in the beginning. You just have like 12 moves, I guess, total per character, but there's a lot of characters. So it's easy to pick up, but then suddenly you go into a ton of breadth. And what I'm saying is I think a lot of just a lot of designers in general are like, man, if only you could make it more like Go, where it's like one rule set or even one character, but you just have immense gameplay from that. I think that is a mistake in a lot of ways because, like you said, there's a lot of subtlety in the mechanics and the depth, but a lot of people aren't going to pick that up unless they're skillful and analytical. And
Yes,
that's the problem.
that is the problem. Most people, and now in our game, all characters move the same, right? But they all have different weight and different sizes, and that's what's
Right.
kind of a little bit of the different stuff. It's almost like using them as like little paddle balls to hit the soccer ball and move it into the goal and stuff like that. They do all have one special ability that is unique to them, but that uniqueness is something that player can only utilize on a cooldown, and it's a one button tap, and it's usually not. It's like you just have to know the good situation to kind of use these things or to utilize it,
Exactly.
right? And we try to make it so that there's no bad time, but we're not purposely designing around that. We want to have like we want to have more focus rule within that. So it's almost like like a rich get richer button or a press button win or something, right? Like we want to that's because complexity can't be high. Like I can't inherently sit you down and say, okay, here's a box. You're gonna sit here and jump around the place for a while. Like I definitely could, and I could theme it and put it in the story and make the people do. I built a level that was similar to it, and it had like saw blades moving around in a
Yeah.
very specific pattern, so that you learned the pattern, and then you tried to get good at kind of like edging and being delicate. But most players, when I've gone to conferences, even in the first like 30 seconds that they pick it up, right, like it's and then they just smash into the wall as hard as they can, and that's all they're
Yeah.
doing. So funnily enough, in Swing Striker, most people don't swing. They use the grappling hook and pull themselves to where they want to go. They shoot
Interesting.
they shoot to where they want to go, and then they just get zipped to that direction. But if they actually went and like doop, and then like it would pop them up, like shoot it against the roof of the wall and then get up a little bit high, then they could shoot and get this huge swing.
Yeah.
But they don't. I can't teach angular momentum to people. You know what I mean? I can't show them a picture of a rocket jumping out of a submarine and it just goes and then like you ever seen those things, and then they get hit with like they get that
Yeah. Yeah.
little dose and like what I
Yeah. Yeah.
mean? a rocket doesn't go this, it doesn't arc all the time these days. It goes and it just
Yeah.
fucks off in a direction,
Yep.
So that's like a hard thing with this because yes, like I would say that the game is elegant by this design evaluation, but onboarding and complexity and how you get the player to that point is a humongous gap that they need to
That is
bridge.
true. That is absolutely true.
And I think this is where when we talk about layers of complexity and how you onboard the player to that skill ramp is what what this person classifies as depth or additive mechanics. Maybe that's not. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that, but I mean,
Well, I can comment on that real quick, which is you're absolutely right. I've been talking a lot of positives of complexity, but I'm actually ignoring the elephant in the room. Complexity is hard to teach. It's a lot more to learn, and this is a huge negative side, um, because and this will be the number one complaint of any Tekken player, which is, oh my god, there's too many moves to learn,
yeah,
and I get that. I totally get that, but I guess the interesting, it's like it's that added learning versus the ability to progress, which is what I've been thinking about more and thinking, oh, you know what? Complexity might not actually be a bad thing.
yeah. Like, look, I would say, and this is kind of the point I was thinking about trying to make here, but this person's taking this ratio rule, right? Like this game has 20 rules and 10 depth or whatever, and then they, divide the two and say one is more complex than the other.
Right.
I would argue there's some hidden rules within elegant games that are not explained, right? Like, and how does that change the way that the player's experience is affected? Because in an elegant game where there is this easy to learn, hard to master, and most of your players will sit down in the bottom half, are they having the best experience possible in this moment? And how should you tailor your game for that category of people? It's a hard sell to go try and take them from here to here. So not everybody can be the most skillful player in the world. So how do you try to even teach them that, like, hey, no, like you're all doing it wrong. It's like kind of like a machine learning bot. Like,
Yeah.
here's 1,000 players that are brand new to your game and they've never played it before, and then they're all doing like the worst ways
Yep.
to interact with your game. And you're like, no, do it this way. Like, are those hidden rules? Are those implied rules? Um, and the layer in Tekken is just like, yes, every character has a different move set, and there are thousands of moves, but there is a prescribed layer that is meta. These are the
Yes.
combo moves that have the shortest times and can be used most effectively. So everything else goes away. So in the same vein, it's like if you are a new player to that game and you see this list of mechanical depth, like you just start mashing things, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't even look at the rule set because you're just like,
Completely accurate.
oh, like, so where's the line here? And to me again, it comes just back to like, yes, like there's a level of fat that needs to be trimmed or should be trimmed. But actually, I'm gonna go back on that though. How do you then allow for exploration within your gameplay? You know what I mean?
I do.
While trimming down the rule set, right? Like, if you want to be more elegant in your game design, but you also need to kind of like change up the game. You know what I mean? For players, or you need to get them. You need to teach them the core of the game. And if the core of the game is not really being utilized in this other movement set, but you also want players to be able to like have fun and explore. Like if every player used like every time I see, you know, one of these characters, they're always doing the exact same thing all of the time. It's very prescribed in gameplay, right?
Yeah.
Then it's just like, no, I do this when you do that, and that sucks. So is that just high level play? Like high level play is not the same as the regular
Yeah.
grubs on the ground, though.
Man, okay, first off, that was a huge
Sorry, I am just
you know,
rambling again.
it's a huge statement, but it's a great statement. There's a lot of things to pick apart at it. I'll try to pick apart the main thing that I can highlight there. But let's see. So first off, like what you kind of said with swing strikers, you're right that people aren't playing the game in the most fun way, which is actually using the swinging mechanism. And
Being intentional. They're not being
yeah, yeah,
intentional. Or
yeah.
maybe. I don't know. No, I'm berating players. Sorry, go on. Go on.
No, no, no. You see, I mean, you literally see this in all sorts of games, and there's a kind of there's a saying from Soren Johnson who's the lead designer of Civ 5 or one of the Civs, and he said gamers will optimize the fun out of your game, and kind of a variant of that is, I mean, frankly, basically a variant of that is that people will often play in unfun ways, and you gotta kind of move them towards the fun way to play.
Yeah, those min maxers, man. They will do whatever they need to do.
But related to that is what you said about Tekken in layers, and you are absolutely right. Is that there's, I don't know, roughly in my head, like 6 layers of Tekken players, and each layer plays very differently, and they do ignore the extra complexity, and it doesn't overwhelm. Well, it kind of overwhelms them, but it at least gives them a way to grow. So I don't know if that helped your thoughts at all, but what do
No,
you?
because here's the thing: is all what I'm trying to say is like, I mean, to me, it's like I think that both of these things can ring true. I think that you can have a deep game that takes subsets of major rule sets and sticks those in front of the player and says, "Hey, have at it." I also think you can have games that have hundreds of rules, but and players can still get there. It's about how did you onboard the player to that point.
Yeah,
You can't just say it's easy to learn, hard to master. It's like, what's your ramp, right? Like,
exactly.
that's what I want to know. It's like you can have the deepest game possible, but like I need to be able to see, recognize, and understand that it's even a rule in the first place. Like going back to this guy's very first slide.
You
Uh,
said it better than I could. That's a good summary.
Misconceptions, having a lot of rules, not a design goal. Having a few rules is not a design goal. Sometimes having a few rules actually is a design goal. But I fully get the sentiment. Um, the smallest amount of rules possible, and many rules can still be elegant. Right, well, I mean, there you go. Like, many rules can still be elegant. So maybe they've already, retracted on any of this. But, um, my I just, yeah, fuck. Maybe it's not that way then. But
We're just exploring
how?
topics on this podcast. We're not here to teach. We want to start a conversation. It's
Oh
all good.
no, I'm not starting a conversation here. No, I'm trying to like formalize the thing. No, I think it's about how you get the player up to that point. So like, let's say
Yes.
in Tekken, like I think that Tekken, in general, I think the fighting games have done a horrendous job of actually serving their own communities
Yep.
with games over the past 6 years or whatever since the
It's
PS2.
bad.
It's actually just been kind of garbage, like rehash the exact same game in the same engine, and it just seems like a total disaster. But sorry, but
No.
if one of these games really came out with a way of how do I teach you the core move set for these characters? How do I teach you how to utilize that character effectively? And how do I get you to recognize patterns within the game? Because here's the thing. I think that most players play on a very prescribed reactionary basis, right? They're not actively thinking about what is the state of the game, where am I, and how am I going to move in the future. I don't think that many players think that way. I think that they
Agreed.
see pattern, react. But the best players and the people who really do hit the level of mastery that we're talking about here and say, hey, you're having fun and playing the game effectively and enjoying yourself doing that. Or maybe not because you're the min maxer and that's the only way to get to the top level, but fix that in your game if that's the case. Is is yeah, it's just about how you fucking get the player to there.
I 100% agree.
But
And
yeah, I don't know what
oh,
that looks
go ahead.
like. Sorry, I don't know what that looks like right now.
Yeah.
Especially in
So conceptually, what you're saying kind of with okay, so for the player to have the most fun, okay, optimal fun is they have a perfect mental model of your game, or a very good mental model, and they're like, okay, this new thing just happened. I know exactly how to piece together a new solution.
Mm-hmm.
And they form a new solution to the new pattern, and they have fun because they totally understand your game. And this is kind of the argument for an elegant game, is like you build a game with a mental model, a simple mental model, and your players are just extrapolating and growing and creating a new understanding of your game at all times. But here's my I guess my summary of against Elegance is eventually your players will hit a wall.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, okay, they'll hit a wall, and I don't think most players can push past it. I'm talking about the whole general audience. Your hardcore players will understand your game and figure it out, and that's fine. But I think for the wider audience, a lot of people will fall off, even if it's a simple rule set.
How far do you think you can go with a simple rule set? Do you think that like a simple rule set just has? I guess it like again this is, it goes back to a definition of simple, right? But like, there's only so far you can actually even take a simple game, like an elegant game,
Yeah.
right? They're like a really elegant game, and it's how much experience are you really trying to drive through to the player? So like we add more mechanical complexity to a game maybe over time, but or or really just at the start because we also want players to have more longevity within the game.
Right.
But just like in the Doom stuff, you know what I mean? That barrier then can get hit of how many mechanics that you have on at one time.
Yes, that's
And
a
I
great example.
and I think that you can also that's this is it where you can have these deep games, or what I would say is like they're not deep games. I think that it's not about an individual character can do a lot of things and that's depth, but like when we have a lot of characters, that's breadth, right? And you can have
Right,
a lot of
exactly.
mechanical breadth, but it's about how much of that then do you surface on the depth side of those characters then too. But again, it's just how do we onboard players better into those situations that don't make it like training wheels. Like if
Yeah,
Tekken was like driving school, no one would do the training anyway.
yeah,
So teaching through gameplay has got to be the way. But like, if like, what do you do? Do you only unlock new skills on a Tekken character if you use that Tekken character? And we start you off with 5 moves, and we say that's all you're allowed to use.
right.
And now all of a sudden we're going to give you the Dragon Punch after you've mastered those 5 moves or like won 5 battles with them. And then you figure out how do I integrate the Dragon Punch into my 6 move Rhoda now, and then maybe over time, then you go to 15, but then you subset other things out and you start trying to find your gameplay and find your style. Like,
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt that somebody on the in the Tekken community, like one of these dojo trainers, could really like give some insight there of like how do you train a new player to play a character that isn't, and by not just saying here's your fight stick, sit here for 12 hours and read
yup,
this manual. You know what I mean?
yup. No, I just started training somebody, and it was a lot like that. I was like, oh, this is really tough. Just stick to these 2 moves. You're absolutely right. Like that's definitely one idea I think would be better. And I think you actually, again, you struck the heart of what I'm talking about. I don't really care about elegance or complexity because that stuff that doesn't translate to sales and retention. But what does is onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just talking about your first time experience. Onboard, maybe onboarding is a bad word, but the players need to know how to get better throughout the entire lifespan of the game. That's what we're talking about here, and that will translate to retention, 100%.
Yeah, I think the argument there is going to be like how does that hurt exploration and interpretation,
Yes.
where but what I mean, and do things, like does this now become prescribed gameplay if everybody goes through the same
Yeah.
grow loop? But I think that in reality it's like I mean, so there's got to be some loops or some place where you build up, but at some point when those mechanical depths or complexity does become wide open, then it is like, I think that's where your interpretation. But if you also still have that elegant base mechanic, you know what I mean, and you've been adding complexity around all of that in breadth, then how those things go together is going to be, you'll be able to pattern recognize like later on and everything. But yeah, it's, I mean, how do you make sure that people approach problems in a meaningful way and also just have like the best player experience for them? You got to give them the tools, but they need to know how to use them, or at
Yeah.
least some idea of what to do. Because yeah, all
You
right,
know
well that
that.
was cool.
Oh,
No, it's
uh,
cool. Yeah, yeah. We don't. You got one. We got one more point
yeah.
on this.
Last thing about that. That's actually a really relevant topic right now in the fighting game community. There's a debate going on about whether you should give the players frame data or not, which is the most nerdy thing you could do in a fighting game. And actually, the Tekken producer a number of years ago said he didn't want to give this data because he wanted to extend the discoverability moment where everyone's just exploring, and that's the most fun part of the game. And of course, as you can anticipate, the players are all like, "What? Screw you! Give me all the data. I need all the information." So it's a clash.
Am I reading this right? Did the Apple Arcade just open up for everybody?
What?
Launched this mobile game subscription service September 2019. The hosts, the iPhone makers rolling out new games on a regular basis. We've created a list that includes every game currently available on the service. Oh,
No, I think
okay.
they're just
No,
listing it. But anywho, that's all. That's all I got on the topic.
they say available now, and I was like, yeah, now, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Apple Arcade to just go back to free to play. Um, not really. But yeah, okay. Well, nice, dude. That was awesome. I don't. You mean, do we have much else? We're at 52 minutes. What are you feeling?
I kind of wrapped up but I guess yeah, I think we kind of know where each other stand. I think we're actually kind of like ambivalent in a way about either or, and it's more about making sure the player is still on board at all times. So
Yeah, yeah. You can't just drop somebody into a CEO position at a box factory and say, "Go be a CEO." Well, you can actually. Can we make that game, Calvin? Can we make that game? Can we be?
oh, I'll
We
do it
should
this
make that
weekend.
game. Yeah, there you go. All right, everybody. Bye.